The opposite of addiction is connection. Or is it? The idea for this video has been in my head for a long time. It's the second on my list of ideas I have in my phone. So I think it's probably been there for about 9 months, if not a year. But that phrase, connection is the opposite of addiction, or the opposite of addiction is connection. It was kind of coined by a writer and journalist, Jahann Hari. He made a video, or there's a YouTube video of him giving a TED talk. I'll put a link in the description. And it's a video that I first saw when I was in rehab the first time. And it was shown to me again when I was in rehab the second or third time, and I've watched it a few times since, including last night, to kind of refresh the memory. It had a big impact on me. I recommend you watch it, but I'm going to kind of pick out some of his key points and share my kind of additional view or critique on it. And yeah, it had a big effect on me when I first see it. It's one of those kind of like mind blown kind of moments. A few points in it are fantastic. So the first kind of key point he takes is he's trying to debunk some myths and preconceptions around alcohol and addiction. So addiction in general. He talks about how, if you go into hospital and you have a major procedure, you maybe have to stay in for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, they'll give you strong painkillers, most likely morphine, which is heroin. And most people think if you pump someone with heroin for days or weeks, they'll become addicted to it. But they don't. So this raises that question about addictive personalities. I mean, it raises many questions, but for me, it raises the point about addictive personalities. Some people say, oh, I've got an addictive personality, I'll get addicted to anything. But it's just not true. We only get addicted to certain things. And for me, I've obviously had my problems with alcohol. But there's been other times where I maybe took a few too many painkillers or sleeping pills, but I didn't react to any of that anywhere near the way I've reacted and behaved with alcohol. And in all my years of talking to other people in recovery, they might have had sprees with other things, they cross-addicted for periods of time, supplemented their addiction, but they all kind of recognise the one that it comes down to. And I've said it before, a lot of people, although they may have used other recreational drugs that have brought them to their rock bottom, they potentially kind of come through it and realise that it actually all started with alcohol, and they wouldn't have reached for other substances unless they'd started drinking and started drinking excessively in the way they did, alcoholically. So people have their one substance, which was the first one that they latched onto to deal with whatever was going on inside. That one thing that they first realised helped them change the way they feel, that made them realise that there was an escape to their reality they were living in, and that becomes their go-to. The next main point in the video is he talks about a thing called Rat Park. They were clinical or drug trial clinical experiments on rats, where they would, or the first round of experiments where a scientist took a rat in a cage, gave him a bottle with water, a bottle with either cocaine or heroin in it, and see what happens. The rat drinks the heroin or cocaine-laced water, ends up dying pretty quickly. Yes, if you've got nothing to do in a cage and you've got choice of one or the other, you're going to do it. So the idea of Rat Park was a second scientist then put rats in this fantastic, what they called Rat Park enclosure, heaven for rats, where they all can get along, socialise, sex, do rat stuff, have fun, toys, distractions, etc. And what they found in that is that when they have the bottles with the drugs in it and the bottle that's just pure water, they then go to drink the pure water, because these rats realise that if they keep drinking the drugs, they can't enjoy Rat Park. So they say, no, we want to keep doing our lives the way we want to have fun. We're going to stick with the water. Now that on its own is a very powerful point, that if you have connections in your life, if you have things to do, other things to enjoy, other rats or people to socialise with and engage with, and you realise that this substance is destroying your ability to do that, then great. But I think humans obviously have far more complicated relationships and social structures and environment and countries and politics and all this, etc. Far more complicated. So it's not just a question of saying, well, look at you people. Can't you see that taking the drugs is destroying your ability to function, enjoy life itself? Yes, it is, but it's not as simple as that with people. You can't just say, look, life's better without the drugs. Because we're not as simple as rats. We are all complicated people, living in a very complicated world, with a very complicated set of environments and pressures and expectations and rules. How on earth do we navigate this minefield? You know, in what, a couple of thousand years, we've gone from being very simple, living in a village with a home, a fire, food, somewhere you grow your crops, to having everything now, this, YouTube, technology, homes, politics, money, economy, all that, global trade, global everything, global warming. So much. It's chaos. How on earth are we expected to do this? And we're all so different. You know, we all know that, for instance, if you are on the autistic spectrum, you have diagnosable traits, which mean that you are potentially interacting with other people differently, or aren't as able to interact and pick up on social cues, etc., etc. But even if you're not diagnosed as autistic, we all have different abilities to engage and interact with our fellow humans. It's not so simple as don't take the drugs, look, everyone's here, interact, play, have fun, live life. We can't all do that. We're not all as able to adapt to this modern environment. We're not all able to enjoy human park. So when we can't enjoy it, when we can't make the same relationships as other people around us, when the media is showing us that we should be living this way, we should be living happy, productive, successful lives, making this much money, going on these kind of holidays, buying these kind of things, projecting our lives and our wealth and our brilliance to everyone in such a way. Some of us just don't have the ability to do that. And then The idea of that other water bottle that relieves some of the pressures. We go to it because it works. And this comes to the next point of supporting addicts. Jahann Hari talks about how in society we have criminalized and persecuted addicts for 100 years. And in Portugal, they ran their experiment to decriminalise all drugs and put all the money they spent on the criminal justice system and persecution and control of drugs, they put it into supporting addicts back into meaningful lives. And yes, that has worked. I can't believe the rest of the world haven't caught on to it. But the point it raises for me is the interesting question of supporting versus enabling. Because in my view, we have to hit our rock bottom. How do you know that when you support someone and try and help them adjust back into society in a productive life, that you haven't enabled them and just given them a temporary reprieve? Now, I've not looked into scientific studies on this topic. I don't know if there are any, but it's a topic I've talked about a lot. We have to reach our rock bottom. Is it possible to intervene at a point and say, you don't have to go any lower? Here you go. Here's the support. Here's the way out. Here's a government-funded program that's going to help you get into a new train of work, help you rehome, restabilize, readjust. Have you resolved the underlying problem? And while overall the statistics in Portugal are beneficial, drug use and drug problems and drug-related crime are down. But there's going to be people in that system who haven't had the help they needed, who were helped maybe too soon or in the wrong way. They never reached the point of realizing they had to do it on themselves, for themselves, rather than just disintegrate to the point where someone goes, here's a leg up. I almost don't know how to answer this. There is no clear cut. You've got the greater good. Yes, it's worked in Portugal, but on an individual level, how do you get it right? So I don't really have the answer to that. It's more kind of just food for thought. But yeah, the closing thought is that yes, if you're able to, if you have the right support at the right time, if you aren't persecuted even further for suffering with addiction problems, then yes, coming out of addiction, your solution will be connection. But the right connection. Not necessarily what I used to think I needed, which was to have a big group of friends that I could meet up with every night of the week and be like, oh, hey Robin, you want to go and do this tonight, this weekend, go here, do that. Don't need all that. I just need the right connections. I need my close friends and family. I need my connections of people in recovery. I need this. I need you, my viewers, for my outlet. And the comments back, to have that validation and appreciation for what I'm doing. Yeah. So now I think I've got the right connections. So thank you to Jahann Hari for the video, for all the people that appreciated your TED Talk. I highly recommend you have a look. I'll leave it there.